that today. We have nearly 2 hours of what we think are really engaging presentations that I think you'll like, with a mix of speakers, including some student speakers. I also want to acknowledge some folks in the room. We are very grateful to have almost all of our trustees here. President of the Board of Trustees, Tim Jamal, Trustee Jay, Rydell, Inman, Prendergast, and Bill Chicker. Please, round of applause. Chancellor Barnes is joining us here today as well. Thank you for being here. We've got some new folks, and we're going to hear from some of those new folks today. One of the new people hired this year has a birthday today, and she doesn't know that I know that. So, Kim DRC, happy birthday. We have a whole bunch of new folks in lots of different categories across the college. Will you do me a favor? Raise your hand if you are a new classified professional this year. I know we've got some new faculty on board. Raise your hand if you're new adjunct or full-time faculty. Those hands include 27 new full-time faculty, the largest cohort that we know. And I'm going to tell you something, because I interview every single one of them as well as the competitors for their positions. They are amazing. They are the brightest, most qualified, most amazing class that we have ever had. And you know what? I just want you to know that 64% of them identify themselves as people of color. And to me, we don't have no affirmative action here. These are the best and the brightest of what they do. But what we do here is we move the barriers out of the way that keep people of color from applying to our college or from moving forward in the process. And when we do that, this is what we get. We get our most qualified, smartest, best new cohort ever. So welcome to all of us. And finally, raise your hand if you're a manager that I left out. I think we got everybody. All right, here's what we're going to do today. Here's the game plan. Here's the agenda, if you like. We're going to hear some welcomes. First, from President of the Board of Trustees, Tim Jamal, then from Chancellor Barnes. We're going to hear a welcome and possibly some updates from Michelle Jackson in her role as Classified Senate President. We're going to hear from Dr. Margaret Lovett in her role as Academic Senate President. And she's going to reprieve a conversation that she started with us 2 years ago about implicit bias. And based on the responses we got to that, which were overwhelmingly favorable, we decided, Margot agreed to bring that back this year to have more conversation about implicit bias as we go forward. And then I'll be back to talk to you, and I've got a few things planned. One, I'm going to introduce you to 1 or 2 first-generation students that we identified from some focus groups that we did as part of quantitative and qualitative research that Oprah's done on first-generation students at Saddleback. They're kind of amazing. know that we are informal. If you are new here, get up, walk around if you need to when myself or anyone else is talking. Go to the bathroom. This ain't no prison. So come and go as you like. And again, if you're streaming, feel free to come on down and join us anytime you like. Without further ado, our first welcome, President of the Board of Trustees, Tim Jamal.
Okay, he said it's informal. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. It's hard to believe that it's, summer. Wow, summer semester or fall semester, and it's still summer. So it's great to see some people I haven't seen in a while, who I've seen over the years. I'm looking at some of them, and it's nice to see new faces. So I am the board president, for those of you who don't know it. We have 7 of us that are board of trustees, and I can tell you it's a real honor to serve on this board with my colleagues, and who many of them are standing before me. Saddleback College is an amazing place. What a fabulous jewel in our community. And I can tell, I can feel it, I can feel the energy in the room. We have a new chancellor, which is great, and the faculty, of course, and the staff, and all that you do. Saddleback's moving in the right direction. We feel it at the board, and I'm sure you feel it here on the campus, so we're really proud of what's taking place here at Saddleback College. What binds us all together is education. Education does it all. And what you do here is consistent with that, whether it's helping students further their education, whether it's gaining new skills, or whether it's just doing good. Education does it all, and you do it all. And I think what we've done here, at least I think at the board level, we've tried to set the tone a little bit, to be civil, to be respectful, to be understanding of different points of view of diversity and inclusion and equity and accessibility and all these issues. And I know that is important to the faculty here and the staff and the administration. I want to tell a little anecdote. Some of you may know, maybe don't know. My wife is a Superior Court judge, and I had an opportunity to talk to one of her fellow judges a couple weeks ago. And I told her, I'm a trustee at South Orange County Community College District, and the question always, what's that? And I say, well, that's Saddleback College and Irvine Valley College. Oh yeah, now we get it. And then she was telling me she's an immigrant from Ukraine, and that she attended community college on the East Coast, and that it completely saved her life and pointed her in the direction that led her to become a Superior Court judge here in California. And that just reinforces everything that we know, the importance of community college, and the importance of this college as well, Saddleback College. So I want to thank all of you for what you do. On behalf of myself as president and the board of trustees, good luck. I know it's going to be a great semester. I know we have issues like AI that faculty is going to have to deal with. I get it. It would have been easier just to push ChatGPT and just, put the teleprompter up. But yeah, it's here to stay. We're going to have to deal with it in some way or another. These ethical issues are colliding. Internet privacy, technology. The advances are good, but then the ethical issues are something we have to deal with. So thank you for that, and welcome back.
Thank you, Trustee Jamal. Good taste in shoes, by the way. Tim, really good taste in shoes. Highly unlikely. I also want to acknowledge, in between our welcomes, our colleagues from the district, in addition to our trustees and our chancellor. I saw all 3 vice chancellors in the room, and Hani Ephraim and anyone else from district joining us on live stream or here today. There's Letitia at the back as well. Welcome. We're glad you're here. This is your campus too, and we're so glad that we share it with you. Without further ado, I would like to bring up Dr. Barnes, our chancellor, to offer her welcome for the start of our academic year.
Thank you, Dr. Stern. And since you're talking about shoes, this is an inside joke. I'm wearing both of my shoes are the same this time. You all may not have known that in the spring, I realized I was wearing 2 different shoes during your opening session, and I leaned over, I think I was chatting with Dan, and I go, oh my God, I have 2 different shoes. And he goes, I know there's a big group text going around, and we put you on blast. So, so I made sure I wore the same shoes today. So welcome to the fall 2023 Saddleback College. Yes. Can you believe it? I sure hope, I know we were talking about summer, and even those of us who were working all summer, I think we could also say we had a pleasant summer. I'll say that for myself, and hopefully you found some time to rejuvenate, spend time with your loved ones, travel, read, do whatever it is that you need to do to fill your cups. I know I did. I spent a little bit of time in Kauai with my daughters and really enjoyed that time. And, that does make me think about the fact that, there was the worst fire in modern U.S. history in Maui. So I'm sure you'll join me in sending condolences to those who lost lives and structures and their belongings. And so I did want to say that. And so I would love to add my welcome again to the fall 2023. It's hard to believe, but August 1st marked my 1-year anniversary as Chancellor of this distinct, beautiful, lovely institution. Can't believe it. And like any anniversary, it was a good time for me to really reflect upon the past. And at the end of the day, the highlight for me is that I literally met with hundreds of students, classified professionals, faculty, administrators, of course, engaged with the trustee community, and the trustees, our community members, and so on. And that was definitely the highlight. I learned so much about our community, our district, our college, Saddleback College included. And so I'll just share some reflections about what it is that I learned. One of the things that I learned is that this is a very distinct community of individuals, of practitioners and leaders who are very student-centered in every way, shape, and form. I see that this community goes above and beyond for students and does whatever is needed in order to be sure that we support students both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. I've seen numerous examples of that with your food pantry, your veteran center, some of your academic programs. I recently had a chance to tour, for example, the math program. And so it is clear that this is a very student-centered organization. One of the second things that I've learned is that this is also a community that places a high value on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. It's pervasive. It's threaded through all of the work that you're doing. And your institution, as you all know, you are ensuring that this work can be sustained and that this work serves as a beacon for all the work that you do moving forward. I just met Susanna, and you kept going, why are you asking me these questions? Because I was so impressed that you had just shared. I didn't realize that Saddleback College now has a new Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Access. And again, that speaks volumes to this institution about sustaining this work and making sure that there's an infrastructure to help to lead this work. So DEIA, obviously, and I'm telling you things that you already know, but these are some reflections in my last year. The third thing and final thing that I have learned is that this is a community of courageous individuals. You are not afraid to disaggregate your data, even though sometimes you just want to take a peek at it with one eye and go, oh, Lord, right? You're not afraid to disaggregate your data and have courageous conversations about the data and what you're seeing there with regard to disproportionate impact. You're not afraid to challenge your own mindset, right, and what you've learned and some of your own biases, whether explicit or implicit, so that you can then move beyond some of those biases and push those out of the way to be sure that we are serving our students, our diverse student body, right? You are not afraid to have those courageous conversations, and then, based on your understanding, design an institution that favors all of our students. All of our students, as you guys know, our students have very, intersectional dimensions that they bring to the table. And the reality is that our institutions were not always designed with our diverse students in mind. You all are doing that. And it's beautiful to see President Jamal mention that. This is a beacon in the community, and you all ought to be proud of that. I know I am. And so with those principles of student-centeredness, equity-mindedness, and courage, those principles I really do believe will serve as watermarks for the work that you have before you in 2023. We have some beautiful work before us. I think you all are hearing about the new Vision 2030, which is the new state chancellor for the California Community Colleges just laid out her new vision. We're going to have opportunities at our colleges and districts to align our district, to align our own strategic priorities with Vision 2030. Encompassed within that, speaking of artificial intelligence, is a priority on artificial intelligence. Our board has also established goals. You all have heard me talk forever about my 100 days of listening, which is really our collective work in identifying 5 priorities that will help lead us into the future. And then, of course, we have our strategic plan. So with those principles and this framework through these plans, we have a lot of work to do together. And I know that I'm really looking forward to engaging with all of you. So with that said, happy fall 2023, and I look forward to seeing all of you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Barnes. I understand the body mic lavalier was not working on live stream, so I apologize for those folks who are live streaming who could not hear me. So let me just share with you that during that time, we provided information about how to go online and apply for your bonus check and what you need to do to get it. And I'm really sorry that you missed that. But it pays to be in person, I guess you could say. No, it's carrots, not sticks. We want to be together. We want to create community. We're not going to force people. We still have this wonderful increased access that online gave us, but we do want to come together more often. And based on the number of people in this room today, I would say that many of you feel the same way. At this time, I would like to invite up, potentially for her last address as classified Senate President, Michelle McDougall-Jackson, to welcome you and say a few words. She went to the dark side.
Thank you. So, while you were all on your European vacations this summer, we classified professionals were here. I'm just kidding. I promised I'd make that joke. But so I'm here primarily to speak with you all about Caring Campus, which, if you've seen me, if you know me, the new faculty don't have the pleasure of knowing that I've been speaking at every function possible about Caring Campus. So if you missed it, for those of you who are new to us, the classified professionals here on this campus attended some training in the spring with an institution called IEBC, which stands for Institution for Evidence-Based Change. And they brought to us their Caring Campus initiative, which we have aptly renamed Saddleback Cares. It's branded, it's official. What you've missed over the summer was our official launch event, the kickoff, where we unveiled the logo and we talked about the 90-day plan and the wish list that those classified professionals came up with while they were attending that training session. So the reason, a couple of things that I just wanted to break down for my very captive audience today. The reason why we brought this initiative to Saddleback College is we have evidence, IEBC brought us evidence that Caring Campus is an equity-based work that we should all be taking part in. You can go to their website, you can see lots of really wonderful data about students who have been, who attend colleges that participate in that initiative and how the equity gaps are closing for all student groups. There's higher student retention. It's really wonderful data. So that's our why. We're locked in because we care about students, and classified professionals want to do their part to help with student success in all ways. Just to demystify it for you a little bit, it's essentially 5 behavioral commitments. There's something called the 10-foot rule, which is if you encounter a student on campus and you're within 10 feet of them, say hello. Simple. Wave, make eye contact. That's it. We commit to wear name tags. There's a whole conversation about that. So I know I'm going to get a few emails, but there will be a work group. There will be, a committee conversation. It will go through the shared governance process. We're just beginning to imagine what our name tags will look like. But we want students to see our names. We want potentially for them to be able to identify us in a similar community to them, bilingual, undocumented student ally, maybe pronouns. We've talked about several things, but that's just beginning. But that's the second commitment. Warm referrals. So if you have a student that you've encountered who needs help, you don't just point vaguely in a specific direction and expect that they're going to find the help that they need. You're going to call ahead, you're going to introduce them to someone, walk them over if possible. And then we're going to work on cross-departmental awareness, so you know the person in that other department who you're taking the student to. The final thing that we're committing to are student welcomes. So that's upon us now, right? Next week, we're going to have booths with classified professionals. Classified have been sent a few emails at this point about signing up. So if you are a classified professional in the room and you haven't signed up, please do. But if you are a faculty or manager, you are also welcome to join us in this effort. This effort is for everyone, and we are excited for you all to meet us, and we're excited to get your feedback along the way. The beautiful thing about Caring Campus is that we own this. This is not something that's set in stone. We're going with specific principles that we know, we have the data, work for student success, but we can tweak it along the way and make it really, truly Saddleback. We're going to add that special secret sauce, right, Elliot? So that's the beauty of this, and we welcome feedback. So I am, as you all have heard, transitioning roles, and the folks who are going to be leading Caring Campus, I think, are here today. I know I've seen 2 of the 3, but there's Leah Fallbeck and Stephanie Reyna and Elliot Kling, who are going to be leading the committee efforts and helping these conversations through our shared governance process. So the committee is already formed, but if you're interested in joining, please reach out to one of the 3 of them. You're welcome to reach out to me. They're not getting rid of me. I'm staying with Caring Campus, even as a manager. Sorry, Classified. I really love it. I believe in it, and I'm going to stay a part of this initiative. And then I want to make one more announcement. I hope I can put her on the spot, but Chantel Gill, I don't know where Chantel went, will be acting president while we get ready to hold special elections. So she will be our new Classified Senate acting president. Exciting news there. And just a final heartfelt, from the bottom of my little heart, thank you to all of you for allowing me to serve the college in this capacity. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for all of the classified Senate professionals who have been working on Caring Campus. At a recent consultation council retreat, the entire college decided that this is something that we not only want to embrace and follow the lead of classified professionals, but find ways to create counterparts, if you will, those things that are part of the Caring Campus for classified professionals that would also apply in the classroom for faculty and in the interactions and in the supervision and support that managers give employees at the college. We think Caring Campus is for everybody, and we're so grateful to our classified professionals for getting this started. I also want to thank our classified professionals for rebuilding a Senate from scratch, for Michelle's leadership in that role, and for all those who are ready to keep it moving forward. That's part of the sign of a great leader, is they can move on and do something different, and everything that they've done moves on in lockstep as if there was no interruption at all. So kudos to you, Michelle, and kudos to everyone. Among those leaders in Caring Campus, Michelle mentioned Elliot Kling. This is the first campus I've ever worked at that has a second Elliot. So Elliot Kling and I decided that going forward, he will be Elliot number 1, and I will be Elliot number 2. And this has been embraced. People are already starting to call me number 2, which I consider a term of affection, so thank you very much. That did not work very well. Spock? Okay. Speaking of a wealth of knowledge and an eagerness to share it unprecedented in the modern world, Dr. Margot Lovett is here to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to apologize in advance. I've got a written script because I just didn't have time to memorize this and wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. So I've got some papers. But before I start, I would like to recognize Academic Senate officers, and I know that 3 of them are in the room in addition to me. So when I name them, please stand. We have last year's president, this year's president-elect, Heidi Ochoa. We have Efren Rangel, who is our Vice President for Equity and Inclusion. And we have Femia Scarfone, who is our Vice President at Large. And I think on Zoom we have Dan Walsh, who is past president, and Michelle Duffy, who is our recorder. So I'd like to... I also would like to invite everybody to attend our first Academic Senate meeting of the year, which will be Wednesday, September 6th. It's in the AGB, that's the Administration and Governance Building conference room, which I think is AGB 106. Among other things, we are going to be presenting our draft of goals for the 23-24 academic year, so exciting times. As it has been in the past, professional development is going to continue to be an important focus as we continue the work that was started by Pete Murray and Brenda Plasencia Carrizosa, who were the co-chairs of ITL, which stood for the Institute for Teaching and Learning. ITL has been revamped, and it is now the Center for Teaching Innovations, and it is chaired by Kim Stankovich, who, I'm not sure if, I think Kim is here. Is Kim here? Maybe she's on Zoom. So that is also important. At this point, now I would like to make some comments about things that I have been thinking about over the summer, and I hope that this is not just self-indulgent, but that all of you will find them worthwhile. So I started thinking about, when I first started teaching many years ago, I was motivated by my love for my subject, which was African history, and I wanted to tell my students all the cool things that I had learned about that. And then I wanted my students to love my subject just as I did. And eventually, I used my subject matter as a way of teaching my students some skills. I wanted to teach them how to critically evaluate a text. I wanted to teach them how to use credible evidence to craft and sustain an argument, right? But what I realize is that for the past several years, what has motivated me is helping my students come into their own as individuals. I want to help them believe in themselves and have confidence in their abilities. This is the problem with the handheld mic, right? So as I thought about that, I wondered if there might be things that I was doing in the classroom that were at odds with that desire. No, actually, I like to walk. Thank you, though. I'm thinking if like we have cameras, I would be all over the place, but I won't. So, maybe there were things I was doing that got in the way of accomplishing what I said I wanted to accomplish, right? Or even worse, maybe I was doing things that actively prevented my students from believing in themselves and from developing confidence in their abilities. And so I sat with that for a while. And what I realized is that, in fact, yes, I was doing all of those things. And in fact, it was my preconceived notions about some of my students, the implicit or unconscious biases I held about them that were actively working against what I said I wanted to help them achieve. And to illustrate how that works, or worked, because I hope I don't do it anymore, I want to give you an example of my experience with one of my students. Okay? So Mary was a young, very quiet Latinx woman. And in fall 2017, she enrolled in my Intro to Women's Studies class. During the first few weeks of the semester, she really seemed disengaged, right? She rarely contributed to class discussions. And I assumed she was a mediocre student and probably lacked the skills necessary to succeed in college. Now, looking back on it, I realized that I unintentionally treated her as if that's who she was. I didn't expect much from her, and I am sure that the nonverbal messages I sent her indicated exactly that. And then one day in class, Mary said something that was so unexpectedly insightful that I was taken aback. And that one comment made me reconsider everything that I thought I knew about her. Because as I got to know her, it turned out that the reality was very different. This is who Mary really was. She was a high-achieving high school student who hoped to go directly to Berkeley or UCLA, but like so many gifted students, wasn't accepted in the major of her choice. So instead, she came to Saddleback and she joined our honors program. Well, after Mary's comment in class, I started actively encouraging and mentoring her. And eventually she took 3 honors classes with me and earned high A's in all of them. She transferred to UCLA, where she majored in sociology and minored in education studies. Now, in addition to her coursework, Mary was selected as a research assistant in UCLA's Spanish department. In that role, from UCLA, Mary was awarded a full fellowship to Stanford University to pursue a master's degree in education. When she completes her degree this May, Mary intends to work as a teacher in a school that serves historically underrepresented and disenfranchised students. Mary is an absolutely remarkable young woman. Right? She is the complete opposite of who I assumed, based on my unconscious biases, that I assumed and came to believe that she was. For those of us who received positive reinforcement in school, achieving our academic goals was still sometimes a struggle. It certainly was for me. Right? Now imagine how difficult achieving our goals would have been without encouragement. Imagine how much harder that would have been when faced with active or passive discouragement. Imagine the kind of strength it would have taken to persevere in the face of even subtle messages that you don't have what it takes, that you're not good enough to succeed. Imagine how easy it would have been to just give up. Imagine what it felt like to be married in the first weeks of that first class that she took with me. And the more I thought about it, the more I questioned if it was possible that subconsciously I had decided that some students were worthy of my encouragement and others were not. Today, I check myself every time I find myself jumping to quick conclusions about a student, because almost invariably, those conclusions are based on unconscious biases that I hold about that student. So, if I genuinely want my students to do well in my classes, and I assume that all of us here want that, oh, and by the way, a little aside, a lot of faculty talk over the summer too. Right? So this notion that we're like all on vacation. Sorry, I wish. I would love that European vacation. But, if we all want our students to succeed, how can I or how can we help them do that? Well, one way is to start by building truly inclusive classrooms. And inclusive doesn't mean just that everyone is included. Hi, girl, you're welcome, right? Rather, an inclusive classroom is one in which all students feel accepted and respected, have agency, and know that they belong. To create acceptance, respect, agency, and belonging, we may think that what we should do is to emphasize our similarities as people, right? We should highlight the things that unite us. But actually, studies have shown that we need to do something else. something that may seem contradictory. And that something is that we need to acknowledge what makes us different rather than what we have in common. We need to honor our differences rather than stressing our similarities. This means, and I'll explain why in a minute, this means that we need to see ourselves and our students as individuals who differ in terms of our race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, class, and ability. For well-meaning white people in particular, this is really hard, especially when it comes to race. Right? Some white people believe that to explicitly acknowledge and talk about race is itself racist. Others see themselves as colorblind, and for much of my life, I would have said that I don't see color, I see people. That makes me cringe now, but looking back on it, I see it came from a kind, well-intentioned place. I wanted to see all of our humanity, what all of us share as people. But here's the problem with that. As a white woman, I have never experienced racism. I have never been the target of comments or actions based on my race that have made me feel inferior, despised, or unwelcome. As a woman, I've experienced those things. That's a different topic. Like every other white person, I have had and still have the luxury of not having to think about race, since by default, I'm part of the raceless norm. Right? We white people are the default Americans, and everybody else is a hyphenated American. Black American, Asian American, and so on. But people of color and students like Mary are reminded of their race every day, mostly as a result of their interactions with white people like me. They routinely are made to feel inferior, despised, and unwelcome by well-meaning people like my younger self who didn't see race, or by my not-so-young self who operated out of and treated them on the basis of my preconceived biases. They are made to question their abilities. So if I look at my Black, or Latinx, or Asian American, or Middle East American, or Arab American students, and I don't see race, that means I don't see them at all. Right? I don't see the challenges they face on a daily basis, and I certainly don't see the strength that it sometimes takes them just to get through the day. So, to return to where I started, the flip side of not seeing race is implicit or unintentional biases. When we treat our students based on the implicit biases we hold about them, at the very least we limit them. At worst, we may irreparably harm them. After all these years, and I've been teaching for a lot of years, I still approach the start of each new semester with a sense of excitement and possibility. I wonder who my students will be. I wonder what they can teach me. I know that just as they have inspired me over the years, I have the chance to inspire them to make a lasting positive impact on their lives. That is the opportunity that all of us who have chosen teaching as our profession have. But we can only do that if we genuinely see our students for who they are and not for who we assume they are. And that is what I call on all of us to do this year. Thank you.
We're going to take 30 seconds to get some energy out. So here's what we're going to do. So when we were first going through our mascot transition and settled upon the Bobcat, people pointed out that our opponents at I've since decided that we need to have a roar to roar back. So on the count of 3, we are going to open our mouths really wide and get out as much energy as you can for one giant roar. Are you ready? Yes. 1, 2, 3, roar! Saddleback, because I wanted to have an opportunity for them to do what some of us did a year ago in, as you may recall, our I Am From exercise, identifying the parts of our lives that influence who we are, why we have the roles we do, and how that influences the decisions we make. That person might be me, who isn't. Somebody has the same room as me. Oh, no, thank goodness it's not me. We all have cell phones, it's okay. Take a moment, turn it on, turn it down. So I would like to introduce our 2 new leaders and invite each of them to do where I'm from. So first, my new left hand, Vice President of Student Services, Dr. Jennifer Levanti. Jennifer comes to us from Fullerton, where she was Dean of Counseling and Student Life. But that is not where she is from.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. So I am also going to read a little bit. And the reason I'm going to do that, I don't commonly do that, is because I kept trying to practice this speech with my children and I couldn't get through it and I kept crying. So I thought if I read, it might help focus me and direct me a little more. So I'm going to put this here first and go up to and go to the first slide. So I think I want to acknowledge first not where I came from or how I got here, but where I'm at right now. Because to me that's quite significant. So on July 26th, I began my first day as the Vice President of Student Services at Saddleback College. So wow, how awesome. How exciting, how amazing. I feel very blessed. But these are some of the other roles that I have. I am a mother of 4 adults. I have Kayla, who's 33, Dylan, 31, Colby, 29, and Blake, 28. So yes, they're very close in age. I have 4 children in 5 years. I'm also, besides being a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a equity advocate, social justice advocate, a speaker, and those are just some of the things that I am now. But let's go about a little bit of where I came from. All right, so this picture shows you my great-grandmother, Louise, my mother, Karen, and my grandmother, Ellie. In this picture, my mom's pregnant with me. This is the baby shower. My mom's 16 years old. And she just got expelled from high school because she was pregnant. And as you can see, I put here that my grandma, she was 35 when I was born. So she was 19 when she had my mom. So a young family that I was born into, and born to a single mom who did the best to raise me. She definitely loved me. There's no doubt that she loved me. But she had a lot of issues herself. She was very insecure. I'm sure that she had undiagnosed mental health problems, most likely bipolar disorder. It led to a great deal of emotional abuse when I was a child and even in my young adulthood. Being raised by someone who is emotionally abusive leads to a lot of chaos, a lot of feelings of uneasiness. You're not sure where you fit in, you're not sure what's next. Because when someone gives love very easily, but they take it away very easily, you're just not sure where you are. So we lived in poverty during my early childhood, but luckily some of the things that my mom was really good at is surrounding me with people who loved me, could care for me, and could provide me guidance. So it really does take a village, and my mom was really good about that. Some of the things that this picture doesn't necessarily reveal to all of you is that all three of these women, they were extremely strong. They were fierce, passionate. They all were advocates for women's rights. Each of them survived abusive relationships, left those relationships, and found healthier relationships later on. They were all single mothers for a time. They were all brilliant, but uneducated. And they all had very complicated relationships. These three women often taught me who I want to be, but also who I didn't want to be. Can you go to the next one? All right, so my mom and I get a whole slide to ourselves, because as I told you, it's a very complicated relationship. This may not show you any of the struggles or any of the pain or any of that, and often people didn't see it. It was invisible. Other people didn't really know about it. Thank goodness that my unbiological dad came into my life when I was 6 years old, and he's a dad in every sense of the word. But he provided some stability and some calm to the chaos that my mom and I lived in. My mom often expressed her emotions in extremes, but one area that my mom never wavered, ever, until the day she died, was the importance of me getting an education. In fact, as I told you before, she herself was denied an education when she was kicked out of high school. And when my mom was 48 years old, she went to Lincoln Adult Education Center and said, I'm going to get my high school diploma. She didn't want to get her GED. She actually wanted to take classes and have the experience of passing them and getting through them. So when she was 50 years old, she received her high school diploma. And she was so excited. And then she said to me, you know what, Jen, I'm going to go and I'm going to start taking college classes. And she signed up at Orange Coast College and started taking some classes. However, by 52, my mom's mental capacity and memory started to decline severely. By the time she was 54, she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. So she never realized the dream of an education. All right, so that tells you where I came from. But how did I get here? Well, it wasn't easy. It would seem likely that all the encouragement and support I received to pursue a higher education would mean that my path was fairly straightforward. I mean, this should be especially true because I actually excelled in high school. I received scholarships to prestigious universities back east. And you would think, wow, well, there's the path. But I have to tell you, I didn't take that path. All the chaos of emotional abuse without intervention, without others recognizing the abuse, led to some very dysfunctional behaviors on my part. I went to a lot of parties. I ditched school a great deal. I nurtured my friends. I became their mother and the one who focused on their issues rather than having to focus on my own. I hung out with my friends more than ever focusing on my future or preparing for it in any way. In fact, being popular and getting validation and admiration, no matter how superficial or fake, put just enough of a band-aid on my insecurities, fears, and anxieties that I was assumed functional. It wasn't long before I was seeking the validation, love, and approval from a partner, and I met my ex-husband at 19 years old at a club. And by the time I was 26 years old, I was married with 4 children. Soon, 2 very mixed-up young adults, both victims of childhood abuse, began to settle into patterns of behavior that were very unhealthy, as you can imagine. And we were parents to 4 innocent children. So my husband's abuse replaced or added to the unhealed wounds left by my mother. I was told I was dumb, and I believed it. I was told I was ugly, and I believed it. I was told the world that would be better off without me, and I assumed that to be true as well. Because why would people who love you say those things to you if it weren't true? I couldn't understand it. My ex-husband Mike also began using drugs at this time, first cocaine and then crystal meth. My time began to be split between taking care of the needs of my children and my own declining health after being diagnosed with lupus, and doing my best to get Mike to be clean. Became a roller coaster of rehab, sober living, jails, hiding. I was ashamed. I was unworthy. By the time I was 32 years old, Mike and I were living with my parents and our 4 children, and now we started disappearing weeks at a time. And I would try to explain to the kids, oh, Dad's working, this is what's going on, and I was living in chaos again. And it's ironically my 10-year-old daughter who came to me, and I can tell you later on some of the things that she said to me over this time, but it's pretty amazing. But basically, she told me, stop chasing Dad, stop trying to fix Dad, and let him go. 10 years old. And I was thinking, how does she know? And I don't. How is she so aware when I've been hiding and telling her these things are happening and she knew? Because our kids know. So that gave me the strength. That gave me the strength to leave my ex-husband and start working on me and fixing who I was. I didn't have a job at the time, especially one that would pay enough for 4 kids to be in after-school care, which was about $1,600 a month at that time. So I signed up for welfare, food stamps, Medi-Cal, and I felt ashamed, but I knew I had no choice. My children needed support, and I needed help. My best friend told me I should go back to school, and I thought, no way, I am way too old for that. I'm 32 years old at the time, and that ship has sailed. She said, just go with me. I'm going to Orange Coast College today. I'm going to sign up for some classes. Just come with me and see if there's anything for you. I'm like, okay, whatever, but there's not going to be anything for me. I ended up enrolling in 3 classes, 2 psychology classes and 1 sociology class, marriage and family, go figure. And what an amazing class that was. Lord knows that I needed it. So this is where it changed. I cannot explain the feeling I had enrolling at and being at Orange Coast College. I felt safe. I felt validated. It was through my education and the instructors who encouraged me. They saw me for the first time and they said, guess what? You can do anything. And I thought, what? What do you mean? Because that wasn't the story that I was told up until then. And then I joined these programs like EOPS, CARE, CalWORKS, Reentry, and the counselors and the staff who loved me and cared for me and guided me. It changed my world and transformed my life and the lives of my children forever. And remember when I told you earlier that my mom was unable to achieve her dream of an education? Well, I did. I went the whole way. I was able to receive my doctorate in organizational leadership in 2018. And you know what? Ironically, my mom was able to see me defend my dissertation. She was there at my graduation, and she was cognizant and understood everything on both of those days. It was amazing. She died 10 months later. But I'm grateful for that, both of those days, and that she was there. And you know what? I started to understand why my mom always wanted me to get a college education. For upward mobility? Yeah, of course. For career opportunities? Absolutely. For self-sufficiency? Most definitely. But more than any of that, it was about healing and growing and becoming. Becoming the person I was always meant to be. I began to understand that I had value, but that value was me seeing it. It was supposed to come from within. And I also learned to be in healthy, positive relationships that contributed to one another. I learned to forgive my mom, I learned to forgive my ex-husband, but most of all, I learned to forgive myself. And if we go to the next one, I'm almost done. So I also modeled these behaviors for my children, and I broke patterns of behaviors in our family. We went to therapy, we conversed, we had difficult conversations. We validated one another in our unique experiences and characteristics. Now, are our lives perfect? Of course not. But we're loved, we're happy, and each one of us have lived the transformative power of community college education. And if you go to the next slide for me, I'll tell you a little bit about them. Here's my daughter, Kayla. She's 33. She got a master's degree from University of Alabama at Birmingham. She's worked as a specialist at OCC for 9 years, and now she's teaching as an adjunct sociology instructor. Can you go to the next one? This is my son, Dylan, 31. He is my poet and my artist and my musician. And he majored in communications at OCC. He's a project manager for a big construction company. And he's been in a long-term healthy relationship with his girlfriend for 11 years. If you could go to the next slide. This is Colby. He's 29. He originally was a high school dropout. There was a lot of emotional residue for him with his father and his father's drug use. But he ended up going back to OCC when he was 24 years old, and he got a free ride from Berkeley. He is now at Dartmouth in focusing on politics and health in a liberal arts program, and he also got a partial scholarship there. He's a possible Fulbright scholar. They're discussing it right now about nominating him, so that's pretty exciting. He wants to get a PhD in international studies in New Zealand. And then if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. This is my son, Blake. He didn't finish his community college education. He did go for 2 years. He's undecided. We're still working on that. But he's been an electrician for 6 years. He's very athletic in a basketball league. He's also been in a healthy, committed relationship for 7 years. And it's basically telling you that this is where I'm at now. I have an earned doctorate. I went all the way, and this formal single mom on welfare was just named the BPSS at Saddleback College, one of the best colleges in California. Thank you for hearing my story.
Thank you, Jennifer. At this time, I would like to invite up for her own work from our new director of equity, inclusion, and access. All of the work that we're doing is centered around equity, inclusion, and access. So now we have someone to lead and coordinate those efforts, and we're so glad that she's joined us. Susanna came to us from Golden West, where she held a similar position coordinating equity programs and overseeing seed funds, but that is not where she is from.
Thank you. So, my name is Susana Castellanos. I go by Susie, but we have a battle right now whether I'm going to be Susie here or Susana, since we have another Susie. But maybe we'll adopt the Susie 1 and Susie 2, since when I'm called by my name Susana, I'm usually in trouble. So this marks my 5th week here at Saddleback. I come from Golden West College, where I spent 18 years there at different capacities, and I'll share what those are here. So on Thursday at 5:15, I learned that I was going to be doing this presentation. So I was contemplating all weekend as to what I wanted to share with you. So bottom line, I wanted to share with you not only where I come from, but also why I do what I do in my career as in equity and inclusion and diversity. So I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. Órale. And I belong to a family of 5. So this is my parents, my brother, and my sister. I'm the oldest of 3, and we're each 5 years apart. And our journey to the U.S. began in 1985 when I was 7 years old. My dad decided to come and pursue a better life here in the United States when he was about 26 years old. And I cannot imagine how hard that would have been. I can't even move from Anaheim to closer to here. possible so that he can send for the rest of his family. He purchased a pickup truck like this one, I just grabbed it offline, with a camper, and he spent his nights there and ate whatever he could since he didn't have access to a kitchen. So he ate a lot of tuna and a lot of cup noodles. And he got so fed up that if he sees them today, he will not look at them. He will be like, no, I've had enough of that. So he saved enough money and he sent for us a few months later. We all came here undocumented with just the clothes that we were wearing. And we spent our days in the park and our nights in a motel. We did that for quite some time, to the point where the manager realized that we're coming back requesting a room every night. And they're, why are you doing that? You know that if you pay for the room, you need to stay here multiple days. You can use it day and night. But we didn't know that. So it took somebody to ask, why are you doing this and how we can help, that our lives began to change. They brought bags of clothing, bags of snacks, hygiene products, a few toys, and then they helped us get an apartment across the street from the motel. It was a studio apartment. And I remember my brother getting really sick one night, and the paramedics came in the middle of the night, and they offered me a lollipop. And I guess they saw that we had nothing, that the next day they brought us a refrigerator, they got us more food, more toys, more of the things that we needed, furniture. And then the neighbors noticed what was happening, so they started helping us where to enroll in school, which school we belong to. Because in Mexico, it doesn't work that way. You choose a school and you go. It doesn't matter where you live. So I was enrolled as a third grader in a school in La Palma, even though I lived in Cyprus and I was bused there. And this is Mrs. Cisneros, or better known as Mrs. C. She took me out of the classroom to teach me how to speak English. And I learned how to speak English in 3 months. And to this day, we continue to keep in touch. This is my son's baptism, but she's been so impactful in my life that I continue to invite her into my life. I became the official translator for my family. At 7 years old, I was helping my parents do bank transactions. As a 6th grader, I helped them buy their first home. So I grew up pretty fast, but it also made me responsible. At 29, I bought my first home myself. I knew I wanted to go to college, and I didn't have an easy life in terms of academics. I don't know if it was a language barrier, I didn't know how to ask for help. But I knew I wanted to go to college, and I knew that somebody told me, your grades start counting in 9th grade, so do good in 9th grade. So that's when I was like, all right, 9th grade is here, I need to focus. And somebody told me, enroll yourself in honors and AP classes. So I went to the counselor, and the counselor was like, your grades were not good before. Like, give me a chance. And he did. So I enrolled in honors and AP classes. I graduated. I was actually admitted to many colleges, including Yale and Fullerton. I didn't get to go to Yale because in our Hispanic culture, families used to stay together, and me going to a different state, that was not going to happen. So I went to Cal State Fullerton down the street, but I almost didn't have access to that. Because if you remember or don't remember, we had affirmative action that was taken away in 1996, and I was a senior in 1996. But thankfully, my favorite president, Ronald Reagan, he implemented the amnesty program, and we had a pathway to citizenship that came just in time for me to go to college. For all of our families. So we received our permanent residency in 1996. I didn't have the skills to be successful in college. I started as a computer science major, not knowing what computer science was. I thought it was I like using computers, but I didn't know it was programming. So I got horrible grades. I was placed on academic probation. I almost lost my financial aid. But I was taking a lot of math courses as a computer science major. And Dr. Pandey, a mathematics professor, saw that I was in distress and said, one simple question, how are you doing today? And I broke down. Well, I'm not doing good, and I just laid my life story. And he says, come to my office. there's a financial aid appeal. Let me help you fill it out. Why did you choose computer science if you're not doing good? Well, that's what I thought I wanted to do. Well, you did good in math. Switch your major to math, and I did. He offered me my first job as a math tutor. He offered me a job as my first coordinator job for the mathematics intensive summer session, which helped female high school students be better at math. And I graduated, thanks to him, because I think I would have been kicked out if it wasn't for him intervening. I then knew, because of the job that he gave me as a mathematics intensive summer session coordinator, that I wanted to be in student affairs, student services. So I sought my first full-time job at Golden West College as a classified professional. I was a counselor aide, and it took me, I knew I wanted to be a manager. So I knew I needed to go back to school, I knew I needed to get involved, I know that my path was not over, right? My journey was not over. So I started as a counselor aide in the counseling division, then I became the coordinator for the counseling division, then I became the executive assistant to the vice president of instruction, and then I had my first break as a manager, thanks to this guy right here, my former president, Wes Bonnier. He gave me the opportunity, took a leap of faith. It's not easy jumping from classified to a management position. It takes somebody to really take the leap of faith, because many times, unfortunately, they just see you as being capable of doing that particular job that you're doing at the moment. The next one is the vice president of instruction, who gave me the opportunity to be her executive assistant. I finished my master's in February of 2012, and then she said, "Congratulations, what about your doctorate?" And I was like, I don't know if I could do that. I have family, I have full-time jobs. Like, she comes back and she says, "We're not working today. You're gonna sit on that computer, do research on schools, doctoral programs, and you're gonna apply to at least 2. So I applied to Cal State Fullerton and USC. And in August of that same year, I started my doctoral program, all because of her. And then the last one is Alice Chu. She's an accounting professor. She knew I had my master's in business administration with an emphasis in accounting. And she said, "I heard you wanted to teach too. Your time is here. I need an accounting instructor right now." And she gave me access to that, and I've been teaching at Golden West and Cerritos ever since. She connected me to Cerritos. That's me graduating from USC in 2015. That's my chair, Dr. Garcia. He passed, and he was all like, "Get your dissertation done." I was pregnant, I had a full-time job, I was teaching part-time, and I was doing the doctoral program, and I finished 6 months early thanks to him. And I have to say that I'm part of the 1%. I don't know if you know, but only 1.2% of the U.S. population has a doctoral degree, and even less than 1% are Hispanic Latinx. These are my kids. Tony, the youngest one, Rudy, the oldest one, and my equity work strengthened because of them. My oldest one has different learning abilities. I don't want to talk the same disabilities. He has severe speech delay when he was young, and I chose a private faith-based education for him because he needed one-to-one support, small classrooms, and oral examinations, nothing written. And the education system, the public education system was not willing to do that. The other one, Tony's on the other side. He is way more advanced. Last year as a 3rd grader, I was told he can read as a 7th grader and take instruction as a 6th grader. So they challenged him in the same school. They gave him alternative instruction for him. So it's all about alternative instruction. I learned to become an advocate. I still work with the public system for the IEPs, individualized education plans, and assess him. He's a junior right now. This is my family now. So we began as a family of 5. Now we've grown to this. Cousins, uncles, and this is my significant other. I too left a relationship, and I found happiness with him 2 years ago. He's also part of the 1%, not because he has a doctorate, but he's served in the military for 22 years. And thanks to him, I'm much happier today. So I wanted to share an what my struggles were, what my kids' struggles are, and share a theme that it all takes one person to ask you a question for us to open up. Because sometimes, many times, we all have our struggles, we all have our challenges, but we don't know how to ask for help. Your speech is very touching, and I thank you for putting yourself in a vulnerable space. But I invite you, as the equity manager, not only as that, but I invite you to live equity together for our students and for each other. We can uplift not only our students to find their next path, but we can uplift each other as well. We all want to move and advance in our careers in different ways. Let's help each other, work together, and make Saddleback better.
Both of those stories are very different, but they have one thing in common. They're both first-generation students, and that influenced very much who they are, probably why they chose to become academic administrators. I think about our district and our college. So first generation, me, Tram, now Jennifer as well. At the district level, Chancellor Barnes. At our sister college, Trustee Bilchiker. At our sister college, Dr. Hernandez. Why do so many first generation folks head for higher ed and end up in these positions? What is it about that experience that changes us? And in the case of Jennifer and Susanna, makes them so good at what they do and gives us a chance to reap the benefits of their experience and their knowledge. Rather than leave you with that, I'd like to transition to our first generation students and talk about their experience. And rather than talking about that in the abstract or showing you some data, but I do have some data to show you if we have time, I'd like you to meet a couple of them. So Myra and Michaela, will you come up and we're going to have a chat. Welcome. Michaela and Myra Rodriguez. Welcome. So one of these individuals is super nervous. I won't tell you which one. We're going to do our best to make sure they both feel very welcome. And remember, just us. It's just us. Ignore that. It works. We are having a conversation, and these people want to hear what we have to say because I will. And if I can get another one, Ryan, that'd be great. Then they can share that. Is there another problem?
This one's not working.
Okay. We're going to share mics. We're going to make it work. This is the So what both of these folks have in common is that they are first generation students, but you're going to hear that they come from different places and have different aspirations. But you're going to hear some common themes among their experiences. And I wanted to share those with you because I think it's important to hear from people. But this is part of a report that Oprah has done on first generation students at Saddleback. And we'll release that and infuse the information and talk about it throughout the course of the year. But it's quantitative and qualitative. There's a lot of data in it. And there were 3 focus groups that were done, and some of the themes that we pulled out of those focus groups we'll share with you. But Chuka and the other team members identified a couple members of the focus group that we now have, Chuka, would be really good to hear from because they were very insightful and very articulate. And I started to say that you're both here because we want to hear from you and we want those insights, and you've been identified as great speakers and really good at this. So again, welcome and thank you both for being here. So let's start. I want to hear a little bit about what you're studying and what your ultimate goals are. Myra will start.
Hi everyone, my name is Mayra. I started my journey at Saddleback College on this spring, 2023. I wanted to say to everyone of you that I have a great experience. It's the first day I started to the college. I remember like coming the first day to the campus, not knowing where anything was. And I me and showed me exactly where I needed to go to the counselors and asked me if I was in person, as I needed, if I had some questions, said yes. And since the first day, I have received tremendous love from everyone here, from the instructors that I have taken classes. They want to take the best of you, they want to teach you and become a professional. I'm currently, I'm a nursing major and currently working on my remediation plan. So one advice for me to say, you always listen. They told me not to work, you know, and the brain is really rigid and many things happen in lives, you know. And so, and even that as you fail, just keep trying to stay focused and continue the path to follow your educational goals. There's always, it's not the end of the world, that's basically what I'm trying to say, you know. Just keep trying. I came to the United States as a child, but I was back and forth, so I never stayed. I wasn't really here, I wasn't really in Mexico. You know, my parents came for work, they work in the fields, and so I wasn't neither here or there, neither here nor there. But, so when I came into age, so I decided to make the United States permanently my home. I moved by myself. Some family members offered their home, and so I stayed there until I got a job. I started going to a sale. I was working, supporting myself, and that was in 2006. Then I started my family and I dropped out of school. You know, it took me about probably 10, 12 years for me to say, you know, I need to go back to school. And so that's where I started on 2019, taking one class at a time. I feel that I was never going to finish. So every semester I had one more class. And so,
Myra, may I ask you a question about that?
yes.
So why were you taking one class at a time as you went through your prerequisites? And if you don't mind, can you tell us what happened that caused you to be on remediation? And I know you mentioned working. How much were you working, and why did you need to work so much?
I was taking one class at a time for these reasons I want to say. One, because I'm a mother of three. I have, today was the first day for my 14-year-old for high school, so a first day of school. And then I have two little girls. I have one that is in kindergarten and one that is in preschool. So for a family, and also to provide for my family, and because I'm older and out of school for so long, that's why I went slowly. And then, what was the question?
In the nursing program, you said that you were working. How much were you working, and why were you working that much against the advice of the program?
So, I do own that I did not listen because I believe I could do anything, you know? I'm a mom. I'm a mom. I multitask, you know? But being in the position that I know, and I did not listen, I own that they told you, since the beginning orientations, you better not to work and focus in school and be 100%, you know, focus on the school. And so, yes, I own that. So that's something advice I would say, always listen to people that have been there, done that, you know. And I was working full time, you know. During, yes, and I was working full time, you know, and so, and my family, yes. So now I'm here, try to, you know, continue and, you know, and stand up again and just little baby steps, little by little, you know, say to everybody is just keep trying. I mean, when I come to the States, I did not know the word. Only hi, how are you? Basics, you know, start learning yourself. And I worked my way from ESL to college English, then did math and everything. So, I mean, I feel that I lack from guidance because, I mean, my family, it's all immigrant, you know, they don't know the language or the pathway to get your education, so I have to do it step by step, always looking for resources. I learned to look for resources. Just, you know, everything I can do. Thank you.
We'll come in again and hear a little bit more about your first generation student experiences in Saddleback, and we want to hear what you think we could do better about that. But I want to bring Michaela into the conversation. Michaela, tell us a little bit about what you're studying, what you want to do, and your own experience as a first generation student.
Okay, I am a business administration major. Probably the most vague major I could possibly name. So really the sort of emphasis that I want to declare is in management and potentially marketing. And I want to pursue a career in project management, operations management. There are so many industries that could apply to, but medical technology is something that I'm interested in. I grew up in Orange County my entire life with my mom working her butt off to allow me to seek virtually any opportunity that I desired. She never went to college. She mainly grew up with only her mom. Her father passed away when she was quite young, and her mom relied on her as a source of income by the time she was 15. And there was no time for college because she needed to be able to provide for her, and she needed to be able to provide for her mom. And she started at one company when she was 20 and never left the company. She was the top seller of the entire company. And she allowed me to be able to go to a private school in San Capistrano. And the opportunities were amazing, but despite being there for 16 years, I faked it till I made it. Everyone else was talking about how they were going to apply to Yale because their parents were Yale alumni, and they were going to apply to UPenn because their parents were UPenn alumni. I didn't have anything to go off of. I didn't have any source of information. So really, I went through my entire high school career pretending like I belonged in the group when I was pretty much just an elephant in a room trying not to be. I applied to different colleges, and I had many different opportunities, and I had to skip out on some of those opportunities that others would not ever question in their entire lives of, you know, well, you're thinking about going to your school where you have to pay this $75,000 tuition. I'm hoping I have dinner in a few days. So it was a very different experience being surrounded by people that didn't understand the struggle. And so Saddleback was the safest option, and I beat myself up for it probably every single day of summer leading up to summer. That was summer 2022 actually. I was like, everyone else is going to these different places. Everyone would ask me where I was going, and wouldn't say where I was going. Because Saddleback was shameful to go to, right? And then you go, and you're like, how is it anywhere near that? Never have I ever been in a room with so many people that have wanted the best for me and cared for me in my entire life. So I'm continuing my Saddleback journey. I will never, am such a different person. I'm such a better person. I'm actually myself for the first time of my entire educational career. And that was a milestone I never ever thought I would even be given the permission to go into. So to all of you, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for that.
Can you each tell me an example of an experience you had at Saddleback that you attribute to being first generation? In other words, something you think you could have avoided had, parents or siblings or somebody been there to say, be careful of this, or you should go do this. Gail, we'll start with you, and then we'll come back.
Oh my goodness, I feel like I make mistakes every day with that. I think just starting from the get-go, it was the summer before the start of fall 2022, and it was course registration. I was like, I got this. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've done this through high school. This is gonna be easy. And then I couldn't register for classes, and I was like, why can't I register for classes? There's a phone number. I call the phone number. They go, we need to complete your matriculation. I go, matriculate what? What is matriculation? What does that even mean? They were like, well, it's placement. I tested it to Spanish 4, not even knowing that I tested it to Spanish 4. And I took Spanish 1. Because I didn't even realize that all I had to do was click on the button on my site that said matriculation and see that I had tested into Spanish 4. Course registration was a nightmare. I think I completed my schedule the week before classes started. So this exact week, I was flipping out a year ago, trying to get my schedule together. And I did not even know that counseling was a thing. Because in my high school, we didn't have a counseling office. You would just submit your courses on a website and get approved, and if you're approved, then you're in. If you're not, you find an alternative, and that's it. So there was like, well, why didn't you contact the counseling office? I was like guidance counseling? Like, I promise, like, there's nothing going on. I just need help with my classes. No, like, course, academic counseling. And I truly didn't understand the counseling and that necessity and the way that you truly feel that somebody's in your corner supporting you of what your path will look like next semester until I joined honors program, which I also did not know existed until last semester. To the point that I actually was not even qualified for it anymore because I had took too many courses. And thankfully, Dr. Rosenberg is incredible, and she was like, we'll make an acceptance, and I've been able to do so many things with the honors program, but that was really my first counseling appointment was last semester, and I went through an entire semester with, here's the big one that I didn't think would ever be a shock, because I didn't understand 23 units of classes in one semester. Oops. I think 7 classes, all core academic. Oops.
First generation. Been there. Myra, an experience you had that, in retrospect, you wonder if you would have had if somebody there, like parents or siblings, would have known better to guide you.
I feel that because it me a lot of times going back and forth to see a counselor, if as I have taken, as I have known my placement, where I was, I have probably taken other different classes that I took wrong, or also help me to know that counseling, how does the counseling service works? Because I didn't know, that you need to call a week before to make the appointment, and so you need help right away, and so they only need you for 1 to 50 minutes, but what you need is more than 50 minutes. So you know the little, those little tips, like the extra guidance, to be around the campus will help, Also, I would encourage everyone, and I think it's getting better because now I see on emails, I get emails saying we have two resources available for you, but there were not before. So that's something that I see that is really helpful, that now you can just browse and see what is available for the student, I didn't know that before, but now I can, go into the website, look, or call, but I mean, younger me did not know about those resources that were available for the students, so always I encourage everybody or new students, current students, to know your resources, look for help, there's always there available to help, as you ask for help.
And then I promise we'll let you go. I do want to know, with a captive audience in the room who very much want to make things better for first generation students, what advice can you offer all of us? What would you do differently to help first generation students from your perspective? How do you want to start?
When I'm starting, especially for first-time generation students, we don't get, I feel, or at least I'm talking about myself, I didn't get the same, I didn't get like this support, from family. I didn't get the guidance from family too, because I didn't know anyone in that fancy higher education, Firstly, and secondly, I mean, my family doesn't really know the language, So that wasn't the thing for me. Again, I always say, just always go to school, try to find programs, on those programs, there's always people that is willing to help. Get surrounded with people that have the same goal that you do, that wants to get, to succeed, wants to do better in the school, have the same goal. So you can also, stay more focused, Didn't know about the student life too, because those communities like the clubs, Alpha Sigma, some other clubs or leaderships from the student governors, they help you to be involved in the school. I didn't know that as well. So it's beyond those programs, you get people as well that is with you motivated to finish your college, and also motivate you to go to the next step, or they're the same. They want the same as you do. They want to finish their college degree, rewarding it is a technical certificate, a social transfer. They want to get an education, So that's one of the things for me is, and another thing that I think that is important, even if you fail, it's hard, you don't do good in class, it's okay, you keep trying, and going back to someone that can help you, to take it again, or know what to do, to go and try to finish, because sometimes as a first generation student, not having someone and having no one to support you or back you, that can be life changing, It can be like, okay, that's where you fail and that's where it ends, But if you get some help, you can repeat it and continue, and later you can just look back, Thank you.
Make it easier for first generation students.
I was saying this exact thing to President Stern, so this is going to be deja vu for you, I'm sorry. But there's a certain element of independence that is expected, and there's a certain elements of independence that us as students want to maintain. But there are other moments that, despite me wanting to say, no, I got it, I don't got it. And sometimes someone has to look me in the eye and say, I know that you don't have it, but let me hold your hand and take you through it. Because that's something that you can feel the gap on sometimes. So sometimes you are so beyond lost compared to everyone else that you literally need someone to grab your hand and pull you through, or you're not going to execute it correctly. You're going to be behind something. So I would say, even though a lot of the time we're asked to sink or swim, if you notice that someone is sinking and they open up to you about them sinking, sometimes giving them a little bit of an extra push to let them swim just the slightest bit so they can keep on going is exactly what we're looking for.
She's starting her second year. She hopes to finish this year and transfer to UCI and become an anti-year. Myra Rodriguez is currently fulfilling a remediation plan to re-enter the nursing program, hoping that she can reduce her work to part-time so that she can fulfill her requirements and get back into nursing. Raise your hand in the audience if you're first generation. Got it? You're both amazing, you're both very smart, you're very insightful, and articulate. We're really grateful that you shared your thoughts with us today. Thank you so much. I want to share just a few data points about our first generation students from that Oprah report. So in terms of demographics, first generation students make up only 15% of our student population. But we hear stories like this all the time. So I think there are a lot of commonalities between first generation students and students who may not be first generation per se, but have similar backgrounds and come in naive about how college works. And here are some demographic facts about our first-gen population. And when I say disproportionate, I mean greater than the percentage in our college community. So more likely to be female, more likely to be Latino, more likely to be part-time, more likely to be economically disadvantaged. 60% of our first-generation students have some form of financial aid. And almost every single one of them, I will tell you this anecdotally, that I've met, is working. They're working students as well. So green is good, red is bad. Here's how we're doing with our first generation students. So first, good news in terms of access. The way we measure access is, do we capture the student, do we convert the student from the time they apply at CCC Apply to actually enrolling for classes? And we struggle with this in many of our disproportionately impacted groups, but interestingly, not for the first generation students. And I think a lot of the work we've done to improve those rates has paid off in terms of that statistic. We also find no substantial equity gaps in persistence, whether we measure fall to spring or fall to fall. Our first generation students do as well as other students. So we're managing to keep them going, The question is, what's the end point of that? We also have corrected the equity gap in completion of transfer level English in the first year. Faculty there have done amazing work in increasing overall completion rates, but also almost eliminating in some categories those equity gaps, particularly for first generation students. We still have similar work to do in completion of transfer level math, where we still have significant equity gaps for first generation students. And more importantly, in terms of those endpoints I mentioned, we have persistent equity gaps in certificate of degree completion and transfer, particularly for transfer. One of the largest equity gaps for first generation students is in transfer. And transfer is complicated, right? Like, how do you take the right stuff? How do you not make mistakes in your pathway? And then finally, persistent equity gap in overall course completion, about a 6% equity gap, which is comparable, just a little bit less than that for our Latin students. So overall, if you look at the survey that we did of graduating students who move on, and we check in with them to see how they rate their experience. And these surveys, you might think this is very subjective, it is, but they found to be very, very reliable. And these surveys tell us that many of our first-gen students feel very good about the education they have, and we did a really good job preparing them in these areas, particularly computing and IT, scientific and QSR, and principles of natural science and math. But if you look at the disagreements, you'll see that quite a few more students felt that we didn't do such a good job in preparing them in these areas if they are a first generation. So in summary, we have significant equity gaps in course completion, math completion, credential completion, especially transfer rates comparable to our Latino students. And this perception gap is interesting in terms of not only not having the same achievement in some levels, but perceiving that they are not achieving as well. So a lot of that goes to the psychological impact of imposter phenomenon and being first generation. So I want to identify some of the themes that Oprah was able to pull out, and we will share this report widely across the college. But here are some of the themes that were identified in the 3 focus groups that they interviewed that both Michaela and Myra participated in. So first, lots of first generation students have great experiences here. Everybody had a story about a counselor. Everybody had a story about a classroom experience that was extremely positive. Oftentimes, a common thread is somebody, some one person, almost parental, takes on that role of helping them. The other theme that we pulled out is that they feel disadvantaged, but they nevertheless are here for all the best reasons. They're here to help themselves and their family. Lots of stories. When I talked to Michaela and Myra, I met them for the first time this morning, and did sort of a pre-interview Zoom with them. And both of them told me why they were going to school. Myra to help her family and her kids that she's raising. And Michaela spoke about being a role model for others. It's really important to them, not just for themselves, to transform their lives, but to be a role model for others, very common. They are likely to lack the social and cultural capital, as we call it. That's that guidance, that's that piece that's missing. No one hanging over them to say, here's how you do it, here's what matriculation means. If you place into 4-term Spanish, you can take 4-term Spanish, even if you don't feel good at it, you'll get better at it instead of taking 1st-term Spanish or taking 7 classes. But that disadvantage they face in coming here. And many of them were more likely to struggle because of financial burdens and with work-life balance. I was particularly struck by this and a couple other quotes in there where students had experiences that we just take for granted. Like if you're online asynchronous, assignments can be due anytime. They can be due on a weekend or a weekday, right? But for the working student, the weekend is not time to do assignments. It's time to go to work. And we don't think about it. It doesn't make us evil. It doesn't make us bad. We're just not thinking in the same way that Margo was, experiencing her own implicit biases for her student. We all do this all the time. We're not thinking about how different students have different lives and how our policies in the classroom and in college impact them so greatly. All of them had stories, both Myra and Michaela shared stories about discovering EOPS. So many people, EOPS turns things around for them. It's such a wonderful service. But they find these things a bit late. They wish they had discovered them sooner. So you heard Michaela's story of taking 7 classes. She wished she had talked to a counselor. She talked to a counselor only at the end of the year. I wonder how many of her credits are excess. I wonder how many of her credits are not even on her pathway because she never had math. So the importance of getting them to be able to see these services. Myra told me she hadn't discovered basic needs until recently. Didn't know we had a pantry. Didn't know, as you heard today, we had a clothing closet. And theme 7, we're all thinking that we're doing the right thing, but we're not recognizing that folks don't know how to do college. These were some examples that struck me. Every campus shell is set up differently. So one student said, wouldn't it be nice if the templates were all the same? So you know where to go for your schedule. You know where to go for the homework assignments. But every instructor sets them up differently, which makes it really hard if you're first generation to figure out how to navigate college. And I thought this one, speaking of AI and ChatGPT, really interesting because whenever appeals come to me for academic integrity, it's like, come on, you clearly took those things right off the internet. How could you not know to do that? Well, we know, we've learned that, but if you're first generation, no one may have told you. Hard as it is to believe, I know, that you're not supposed to take things and cut and paste them into a paper. And with everybody, loving ChatGPT and talking about all the things that it does, how can we not expect them to think that that's okay if no one has told them that it wasn't? So I love this student quote, that they came back and like all of a sudden, this is clearly when ChatGPT came out, it's all about integrity and heaven help you if you use ChatGPT. Here's how hell will come raining down upon you, And we mean well, we're trying to deal with new technologies that's coming out, but clearly we have to think about how this affects people who've never heard of these things before and never heard about these rules before. And then finally, how much they appreciate. Again, I would call them these kind of almost parental roles that we play as counselors, as coaches, as both athletic coaches and success coaches, and mentors, and how many of them I talk to wanted mentors to find a mentorship. Michaela wanted to be a mentor. She's already be a mentor. A great mentor she will be. So we need to figure out more ways to get them in to see counselors, to get them in to see success coaches, to make sure they all have maps, to make sure they have particularly mentors, particularly if we get another first generation mentor. I think these are some of the solutions that we'll talk about. And what Oprah has done is they put together not only the themes that came out of the focus groups and all the data, but they've also come up with specific recommendations. And rather than my going through those here, I will share those with you over the course of the year. So I had a bunch of updates, but in the interest of time, because I'm out, I have my first Friday update, I guess. I will put those updates in the Friday update. But I just want to share a couple of things with you thematically. One, you may notice that our campus is getting beautiful. And there is a lot of hard work going on. We are very grateful to District Facility Services for helping manage these projects and transform our campus literally from what it was a few years ago to what is fast becoming a beautiful stage for learning and for the transformation of lives. If you haven't, drive around the outer loop on your way out today and check out what's happening with Beautification 1. We'll start Beautification 2. We're going to start moving into Gateway in the next few months. It's almost complete on the inside. It's very cool. Second, in terms of thematics, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's happening that we should be very proud of. And I just want to mention a couple things because every time I talk to a group of my colleagues, I find somebody doesn't know about this stuff. Do you all know about our student needs survey and how cool this is? So every college does student needs surveys. They send the survey out to students, they see what kind of things students need, and it's a lot of technology and it's a lot of mental health. So they know, hey, we need to do more of this. It's aggregated data. What we do with our student needs survey is we respond to every single student who indicates that they have a need in any of the categories. If they need a laptop, if they need mental health counseling, if they need to see a counselor, if they need to see a success coach, if they need tutoring, they get a response, and they get a response within 24 to 48 hours. It's an incredible collaboration of all the units of student services and Oprah to make this happen. And here's scalability as a model, right? We started this with 2,000 at-risk students last fall. We scaled it to 8,000 in spring. And this fall, a couple weeks ago, a week ago, we sent out surveys to every credit student at Saddleback who's enrolled here for a credit program. Every single student. We got 360 responses in the first hour. In the first hour. Do you think there's needs out there? And every single one of them is being tracked on a dashboard to make sure that you don't drop the ball on anybody. That's a really cool thing that's happening at Saddleback, and we should be really proud of it. The second thing I want to mention is we will be continuing the one sheets that give data to the people who need it, that give the data about course completion to instructors in their classroom. So very soon, in the first couple weeks of this term, if you are an instructor, you will receive the data from your course completion rates, disaggregated, as the Chancellor said, by demographic groups, so you can see where you're doing great, where you've got some gaps, and even with links and PD suggestions for things to improve it. And we're improving it this year. We're going to also let you do dig downs by modality, and we're going to come out with new PD activities. I know Kim Stankovic and a lot of the faculty who are working on this will have even more stuff to help us bridge these equity gaps. There is no other college that I know that is doing this. No one else is putting data not on a dashboard and hoping that you'll come to it, but in your hands to use. And that happened because of collaboration between Oprah and the faculty. It happened because we put students first and we didn't worry about what the data was going to mean to us if it didn't look good. We said, that's not what we're here for. We're here to help students. So I am very proud of them. And finally, I will say this. This and everything else that you will see in my Friday update for many of the cool things that are happening are the result of the people in this room and outside this room who are working very hard to put students first. We have new schools. We have all kinds of new things happening. There are like 7 or 8 cool grants to helping foster youth, to help formerly incarcerated students, to create internships. Work-based learning is going to be a new thing like nobody's business. You will not believe how fast you're going to grow in that area. We are transforming ourselves in the way that that landscape outside is being transformed. We are building new buildings and we are building new projects, all for students. So every one of us is part of a community that needs to recognize that we love our students, they are precious, and we only get there by working together and doing this amazing work that no one else is doing. This is Saddleback at the start of fall term 2023. I am so glad that every one of